Before a killer strikes, the choice has already been made, lurking in the shadows. It's a chilling thought, but the terrifying acts of serial offenders are rarely random. They follow deep, twisted psychological patterns that reveal a disturbing glimpse into their dark minds. Each crime is meticulously calculated, a reflection of their haunting obsessions and compulsions. The real question isn't just what they do, but why they fixate on a specific person. What is it that makes one individual a target, while another remains completely invisible to their gaze? At the heart of many of these disturbed minds lies a chilling obsession with power, fantasy, and control. It's like they're trapped in a relentless cycle where life constantly reminds them of their inadequacies and failures. Choosing a victim becomes this twisted act of asserting dominance, a desperate attempt to exert control over a world that they feel has pushed them aside. It's haunting, isn't it? The selection process, the hunt, is where this power trip begins. It's a psychological game played out in their minds long before any physical act is committed. They aren't merely searching for a person. They're on the hunt for an object to satisfy a twisted fantasy, a chilling symbol to exert their dark will upon. This isn't just a sudden impulse. It's a chilling, calculated, deliberate sequence fueled by a desperate, almost haunting need for control. Ever wondered how this eerie selection process unfolds? Profilers generally categorize it into a few key types, each more unsettling than the last. First, there's the opportunistic selection. This is the classic wrong place, wrong time scenario where the victim is chilling, just minding their own business, only to be snatched up because they were an easy target. It's haunting, isn't it? The offender wasn't targeting them directly, but their vulnerability created an irresistible opportunity. It's almost like a symbolic selection, drawing the predator to the path of least resistance. The victim embodies a haunting echo from the killer's past, perhaps an abusive parent who unleashed a torrent of rage, a cruel authority figure who belittled their worth, or a friend who turned their back in a moment of need. This connection runs deep, twisting the knife of their unresolved trauma, creating a sinister cycle of pain. It's as if the victim becomes a living reminder of everything the killer despises about themselves, a projection of their own insecurities and failures. The shadows of their history loom large, compelling them to strike out in a misguided attempt to reclaim control, perpetuating a cycle that feels both tragic and terrifying. The crime morphs into a chilling act of revenge against a ghostly figure, with the victim hauntingly standing in. Next is obsessive selection. This is perhaps the most frightening, as it involves a long period of observation and fantasy. The offender may stalk their target for weeks, months, or even years, building an elaborate fantasy around them. They become fixated on this one person who grows to represent an ideal in their mind. Finally, there's mission-based selection. These killers believe they have a duty or a mission to rid the world of a certain type of person, perhaps people of a particular ethnicity, profession, or lifestyle. Their choices are driven by a delusional ideology, and they see their crimes not as murder, but as a righteous act. When criminal profilers analyze victims, they often find disturbing patterns. It's rarely about conventional attractiveness or even gender. It's about access and control. What truly attracts these predators are specific traits and situations. They look for people who might be perceived as more trusting or less likely to put up a fight. They target individuals with predictable routines, making it easy to learn their habits and anticipate their movements. An isolated lifestyle, living alone, having few close friends, or being new to a city can also make someone a target, simply because their absence might not be noticed immediately. They prey on vulnerability, not just physical, but psychological and social. The easier a person is to control, the more appealing they become. This whole disturbing process begins in the mind, in what profilers call the fantasy stage. Long before any contact is made, the offender is living out the crime in their imagination. They create detailed scenarios of dominance, control, and revenge. This isn't just idle daydreaming, it's a crucial rehearsal. The fantasy allows them to work out the details, anticipate problems, and emotionally prepare for the act itself. It becomes the blueprint for their real-world behavior. The more they retreat into this fantasy, the more the lines between imagination and reality begin to blur. For them, in their mind, the crime has already happened dozens, if not hundreds of times before they ever make their first move. Following the fantasy stage often comes the stalking phase. This is where the psychological hunt turns into a physical one. They begin to actively study the habits, movements, and social patterns of their chosen target. This can range from driving by their house, to following them to work, to scrolling through their social media profiles. Some will collect mementos like photos or discarded items, while others will simply memorize small, intimate details about their target's life. This obsessive observation serves a dual purpose. It provides practical information for planning the crime, but more importantly, it feeds their illusion of connection and power. They feel as if they know this person, that they have a special, secret relationship with them, all while remaining a terrifying shadow. But what happens when the ideal victim isn't available? This is where the concept of victim substitution comes in. An offender might have a very specific type in mind, a particular hair color, profession, or age. They may stalk this ideal person for a long time, but if that person suddenly becomes inaccessible, maybe they move away, change their routine, or are never truly alone. The killer's compulsion doesn't just disappear. Instead, they often find a substitute, someone who closely matches the profile of their original target. This is a chilling demonstration of how their pathology works. It shows that the crime is driven by a pattern, a type, a symbol, not by an emotional connection to a specific individual. The victim is interchangeable as long as they fit the template in the killer's mind. The environment itself plays a massive role in how and where these predators hunt. Certain settings make targeting victims far easier. Remote, isolated areas offer privacy. Bustling nightlife scenes provide a sea of potential targets and a degree of anonymity. The internet has also become a modern hunting ground, where predators can gather information and even groom potential victims from the safety of their screen. The choice of environment often reflects the killer's own comfort zone and personality. An organized, intelligent offender might choose a hunting ground far from their home to avoid detection, while a disorganized one might strike close to where they live or work. Profilers use this geographical data to create maps of their likely hunting grounds, narrowing down the search area by understanding the landscape of the killer's mind. Ultimately, the selection process is a window into the offender's psyche. It reveals their deepest motives, their unresolved traumas, and their desperate psychological needs. If they choose victims who represent authority, it might point to a history of humiliation by figures of power. If they choose victims who seem helpless, it might reflect their own profound feelings of powerlessness. The victim becomes a canvas onto which the killer projects everything they lack: empathy, a sense of belonging, or a stable identity. They don't see people with hopes, dreams, and families. They see objects, symbols, reflections of their own darkness. The act of choosing is the act of defining themselves through the destruction of another. In the end, it becomes clear that no victim is truly random, only unseen by those who could have protected them. The selection is a deliberate, methodical process rooted in a broken psychology. Understanding these patterns of choice is one of the most powerful tools that psychologists and law enforcement profilers have. By studying who these offenders choose, they can start to understand why, and in doing so, they can identify patterns that may help to stop future crimes before they happen. Because in studying who they choose, we ultimately learn who they really are. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into a very dark topic. If you found this analysis insightful, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content that explores the complexities of the human mind. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one. It was Profile Evil.